Welcome to the Good Friday service. Tonight we gather in the quiet and the shadows of Good Friday, the night heavy with meaning and sorrow and truth. We come together to remember the suffering and the death of Jesus, not to glorify violence or pain, but to honor a life poured out in love. A love that stood in solidarity with the outcast, the leper, the poor, the marginalized, that refused to be silent in the face of injustice, and that dared to forgive even as it was being wounded. Good Friday and its stories are not easy to digest, so we may tend to skip this part as we rush into the glorious Easter Sunday morning. However, Good Friday invites us to sit with grief for what is going on in today's world. We remember that Jesus was executed by the powers of empire and religion, condemned for disrupting systems of oppression and discrimination, for aligning with the poor and the marginalized, the preaching and radical and limitless love that challenged the systems of status quo. And still today, in our own communities, we see people pushed to the margin. We see black and brown bodies and faces treated differently. We see immigrants seeking safety and families mourning senseless deportation. We see systemic and economic injustice that crucifies the most vulnerable again, and again. Tonight we choose not to look away. Tonight we choose not to walk away. Good Friday calls us to be present to the pain in the story and to the pain in our streets. It invites us to hold the challenge, hold the grief and sorrow of a God who suffers with us, and to recognize Christ crucified not just 2,000 years ago, but wherever there is oppression, suffering, or fear. So come as who you are tonight, with your grief, with your frustration, with your anger, with your questions or your longing, whether your faith feels strong or fragile, whether you are showing up out of routine or barely hanging on, you are welcome here. There's a room for your whole self in this space. Let's go to God as we listen to the prelude. Please join me, the hymn number 548, The Old Rugged Cross. First gospel reading comes from the book of John, chapter 19, verses 25. Here's the reading. Jesus' mother and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Cleopas, and Mary Magdalene stood near the cross.
My soul cries out to the Lord, but my spirit is broken. Your messenger told me not to be afraid, but is there anything more frightening to a mother than to live through the death of her child, to see him murdered by an angry mob, to watch him suffer a slow and agonizing death? You promised so much, but now I don't understand. God, I asked you to lift up the lowly, only to see my son, my beloved, lifted up on the cross. The world was supposed to change. It was supposed to be a world where the hungry are fed and the proud are scattered. Instead, the mighty have conspired for more power, and the hope of the world is dying. My son is dying. Jesus, my son, I asked you to stop this mission of yours. I came with your brothers and begged you to come home. Why didn't you listen? You reached out to the crowd and said, "Here are my brother, my mother, and my brothers. But I am your mother. I bore you, I nursed you, I raised you, and now I must watch you die." I hear the prophecies and watched you work miracles, but nothing could have prepared me for this. Why, God, why?
Let you know for the silence, I'm trying to give us 1 minute at least. But I know sometimes 1 minute feels like forever. But I'm trying to be consistent for the 1 minute. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple, whom he loved, standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, here's your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here's your mother." And from that time on, this disciple took her into his home.
My future died today. I was the brightest of your disciples, your favorite. You said so yourself. And I had such a big future as you rose to prominence. Who else besides Peter was asked to be present at the raising of Jairus' daughter? Who else had been invited to climb the mountain and see Moses and Elijah? Who else, besides Peter, of course, did you take with you when you went to the garden to pray? Was that only yesterday, a few hours ago? If Peter was going to be the muscle, the rock behind your kingdom, someone was going to have to supply the wits. And that was clearly going to be me. You know the other disciples. I have gifts that they didn't have. But none of that matters. It's all over now. 3 years of hard work and sacrifice for nothing. But it was worth it just to know you. It was worth it just to have heard you teach and to see all the things that we were privileged to see. You really were a healer like no other. But your kingdom, our kingdom that we hoped for, that's gone. It will never come to pass. Yes, teacher, I will take care of your mother. I'll love her as my own. Together we will cherish your memory. We will never forget. But I wonder, how do we go on from here.
It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. The notice of the formal charge against him was written, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 outlaws with him, one on his right and one on his left. People walking by insulting him, shaking their heads and saying, so you are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, were you? Save yourself and come down from that cross. In the same way, the chief priests were making fun of him among themselves together with the legal experts. He saved others, they said, but he cannot save himself. Let the Christ, the King of Israel, come down from the cross, then we'll see and believe. Even those who had been crucified with Jesus insulted him.
If it was fitting of my standing, I would laugh at you. You stormed our temple and called us frauds. You said that we had turned the temple of the Lord into a mockery. But where are you now? You hang there, alone, abandoned by your followers. Perhaps they got tired of only receiving riddles as answers to their questions. Maybe you chose only cowards who are hiding in a cave, afraid to come out. They seemed awfully eager to run away when you were arrested. You, who were so powerful, healing the sick, casting out demons. Where is your power now? Why don't you ask God to take you down from the cross? Surely he will listen. But our God does not like to be mocked. He does not like his Sabbath profaned or his servants mocked. You proclaimed yourself King of the Jews, the Messiah of our people. But it seems the Romans do not think too kindly of the ravings of a madman. Prove yourself to us. Free yourself from the cross, and we will believe. You saved others, and yet you cannot save yourself.
One of the criminals hanging next to Jesus insulted him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." Responding to the other criminal spoke harshly to him. "Don't you fear God, seeing that you've also been sentenced to die? We are rightly condemned, for we are receiving the appropriate sentence for what we did. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "I assure you that today you'll be with me in paradise."
Who's the other bandit to open up his big mouth about anything? Can't he see that the three of us are in the same place? I'm not going to spend my dying breath mocking someone who is hanging just like me. But Jesus, you're not like me. I did my crime. I stole as much as they said I did, and to be honest, there was quite a bit that they didn't know about. But you do not deserve this death. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. What did my grandfather used to say? It was so long ago that the words had left my mind. He would sit and pray and read from the Psalms. What are human beings that you are mindful of them? Mortals, that you care for them. That was his favorite. Who am I, Rabbi, that you would care for me? Even as we die together, you offer grace. I squandered my life and let down my family. As I dragged my cross up this hill, I saw only an end. But with you, I have found a new beginning.
Many women were watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to serve him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons.
We are the last of your followers to stand beside you. The others have all fled. The Pharisees and the Sadducees would likely hang them beside you if they could find them. But we will remain. What interest do the Romans have in a group of women? You saw deep inside of all of us. You cured us, taught us, chided us, and praised us. Our encounters with you fundamentally changed who we were and the direction that our lives were going. We always had an open invitation to learn at your feet. And we, in turn, helped you along your way we prepared the meals and prepared a place for you to lay your head at night. We opened our homes to you and left them to follow in your footsteps. What more is there for us to do now? The time will come when we care for your body, but for now, we witness. We hold the testament of your pain and agony. We will share with the 12 the words that you say with your last breath. We love you, Lord, just as you have loved us. What is that you say? You are thirsty, but we can't come any closer.
But Jesus let out a loud cry and died. The curtain of the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. When the centurion who stood facing Jesus and saw how he died, he said, "This man was certainly God's son."
He is dead. I stood by while the men in my command had their fun. They took this Jesus of Nazareth and stripped him. A purple robe and crown of thorns made him into a fitting king for the Jews. I've overseen many crucifixions. I thought this one was no different. Sometimes the conquered think that they are better than the empire, but a few crucifixions and they know better. The power of Rome is not to be trifled with. But this man disquieted me. As the thorns cut into his head, he stood watching. The horror of his fate had been sealed by Pilate's hand, but never once did this man protest or plead for mercy. They said that he could heal the sick and bring forth the dead. Angels were under his command, and demons cowered from him. But on that cross, he hung like any other man. All that power, and he could do nothing. I thought it was all lies. Until he breathed his last. The sky grew dark and the earth shook. The whole of nature mourned the death of this man. For one moment, there was terrible noise, and then terrifying silence. No lies had been told about this man's power. All the legions of Caesar could not have overpowered him. His power and his life were not taken. I am convinced they were freely given. In that last breath, I knew this man is the Son of God.